had a master baker come into our bakery one time, and he was in our kitchen. He said, "Why are you using this? You could save the price, by half or 50%." And I just said, because I don't want to use substandard products, right? If we're going to sell and I have to eat it, I don't want to be worried about that it was in a facility that may contain tree nuts or may contain wheat flour. I want something that's 100% pure so I can pass that on.
Welcome to Gluten Free YYC. My name is Maggie Mackenzie, and I live in Calgary, Alberta, aka YYC. I've been diagnosed with celiac disease for about 10 years now, and that means that I can't safely eat gluten.
Celiac disease is an autoimmune disease, and it causes a permanent disability to digest gluten. And gluten is found in wheat, in barley, in rye, and in triticale. And it's a protein. When you are diagnosed with celiac disease, that means that you cannot digest that protein that is found in gluten.
Eating gluten-free comes with plenty of challenges, but eating out is one of the biggest. That's why I'm excited to be showing you some of Calgary's fully gluten-free restaurants and bakeries. Dellissitude is a gluten-free bakery with locations in Calgary's northwest and southeast. First, we'll be chatting with the owners, Renee and Steve.
I'm Renee Fisher, and we're a gluten, nut, and dairy-free bakery and pierogi emporium in Calgary, Alberta.
I'm Steve Fisher. I'm Renee's husband and partner in our bakery.
Delissitude.
Yes, Delissitude. I was just going to say that. Yeah. And it's been a long ride, but a good one. And it seems to be getting better all the time.
Yes. Our journey began, I have been a celiac for over 35 years. And at that particular time, nobody really knew too much about celiac disease. And it was just one of those luck experiences where I had to be hospitalized. And while I was there in emergency, a doctor, well known, he wasn't a doctor of celiac disease, but he was of dairy products and things like that. And he said, "I know exactly what's wrong with you," because they did a series of tests and nothing came up. He said, "You need to go and see this specialist doctor," who is now since retired. And I went to see him, and it was a godsend. Let me tell you, he put me through a series of different tests and whatnot, did some biopsies on me, and he said, "I want you to stop eating anything with wheat in it or anything carbs." He says you can eat everything else, but nothing with, wheat or whatever. And then he said, "Then I'm going to, on the same day, I want you to eat what you normally eat. Like in the morning, you have cereal or something, or toast or whatever." And I did that, went in the afternoon, and he tested, and he said, "You are a celiac, my dear." And that's how I found out how I was. And I started baking, and I don't know if anybody who has ever started to bake with gluten-free products that it turns out perfectly every time. I brought some cookies to one Christmas to my sister-in-law Michelle's house, and she took one bite and she goes, "Oh, these are chalky." And they were very chalky. And everything that I did was like, okay, so then my goal was to make something that tasted like a wheat product using gluten-free flours. So I did my research and started putting together flours and started baking for people who had celiac disease, just friends. And that's how the journey began. And then all of a sudden we go to the Gluten Free Expo, and then we grow, and then as we were there selling our pierogies and whatnot, a representative from the Sobeys and Safeways came by, and he said, "I have eaten your pierogies now for the last 6 months, and they're delicious. We would like you to join our team as one of the, local vendors. So, and then that started the whole ball rolling because there's a lot of Sobeys and Safeway stores. And once you get on board, you can't be in a kitchen where 3 of you are just pinching pierogies and making them.
Right.
And that's when we made a decision, right, to grow bigger. It took off, which is really, really great. And then the pandemic hit.
Right.
And I am sure everybody, it's not just us, but we were just kind of reeling, right? And then Sobeys started to take our product just as COVID hit, and then they said, no more. And it was really tough because our profit margins, the government was giving money for profit margins or whatever, if you made 38% or less. We made 39% and we couldn't qualify for any help at all, no financial help. So it's been a labor of love, and it's been a lot of angst and a lot of pulling down of personal funds to make this work, but we've managed. So far we're unscathed, I would say. There are no war, but no war scars, yeah.
I love
And we all need help. Like Steve and I were talking, we're in a population of over 1 million in Alberta, right? So, right.
Yeah,
more than that. But we're only like a little pinhead of people. So, there's not very many of us. So we can't support going to a restaurant every night or all of these different places. So restaurants do have to do some cross cooking, but we go to the restaurants that are really, they know the difference between gluten-friendly and gluten-free.
Yeah.
And that's where we go to, and it's been really good. We've been successful in our hunt and not so successful as other times, but yeah.
Sure.
So then we decided we would expand a little bit from 3 pierogies, like potato cheddar, potato onion, and sauerkraut. And we thought, well, let's vegan, right? So vegan potato cheese, vegan sweet potato onion, vegan sauerkraut, vegan protein. A lot of the athletes have grabbed onto that because we use all green protein vegetables in there. Yeah, so, and then we have lasagna and pakoras, samosas. Yeah, and we were actually thinking of expanding a little bit more. And then for Christmas, we make the tortillas, the French, meat pies, and we have somebody else make the meat, and then we make the pastry, and then they put it in, and then we make the topping from it. Yeah.
Amazing.
So sometimes it gets to be a wonderful, coordination between people, and same thing here, Maggie, at this market. I'm telling you, like Grant from the YYC Seafood, he came and he said, you know what, I want to make something that's gluten-free. And so we give him our breadcrumbs, and he makes the most beautiful salmon burgers, and we pair them with our pierogies, right? Yeah, and the same thing, our guy at Missing Links, he makes all chicken sausages, which is wonderful because we don't eat beef too much. And so that was wonderful. He makes a maple chicken sausage, and they go very, very well with our pancakes, like our gluten-free. And I was making little packaged pancakes, flours, but we quit making them because we had to cut back on our staff because of pandemic. We had to cut back on resources and everything. So yeah, and so we use lots of oils, but not like we try and stay away from any nut oils, but we use seed oil. So our big one is grapeseed oil, our sunflower seed oil. So those are the two, or olive oil.
Amazing.
Yeah, and we use a vegan butter. In my opinion, the most important thing to me is that I am able to provide top-notch products without any additives or preservatives and keep people healthy. That's all part and parcel of why I started this. I don't want anybody to get sick from my product. And we have, as Steve pointed out one time, all of our customers at some point do become friends. So we would never give friends a substandard product. And that's how we look at how we want to continue to approach our business, that I'm just not going to compromise anybody's health. Well, we're going to cook some up for you today. We're going to cook some pierogies for you today, a couple of different types, and we're going to let you taste the salmon burger that's got the gluten-free crumbs in it. We're going to let you taste the sausages that are gluten-free chicken, and then we got some vegetables from Gull Valley that they give us wonderful peppers and cucumbers, and then I made a lovely coconut sour cream to go on your pierogies. And then over there at Stock and Sauce, they make their own hummus, so that'll go great with your samosas. So we sell, and I just, 4 types of muffins. We've got the pumpkin ginger, which is coming up. It's not leading carrot pineapple right now, but our blueberry is actually coming up next to next. And then we have, of course, our orange date muffin that we're not going to get rid of because we have. And then our mini cupcakes, our assorted minis, that's one of our top sellers. Yeah. And our cookies, at Christmas time, our cookies are, and our pierogies.
Amazing. After chatting with Renee and Steve, I was dying to try the food, but I didn't want to do it alone. So I invited Arvin to come and try the food and chat about her experience with celiac disease.
So my name is Arvind, and I've been diagnosed with celiac for just over a year, since October 2021. Yeah.
That's so soon.
It is, I know. So I'm still very much in the beginning stages of figuring it out. Yeah. I love eating out. It's a nice social thing to do, and it was always kind of nice to not have to worry about what I could eat and what I couldn't eat. I had no dietary restrictions as far as I knew for a long time, right? So it's still something that I enjoy doing and I still try and do. Obviously with having celiac, it's a little bit of a different scenario every time now, but it's big in my life. Like it's how I go to hang out with my friends. I don't want to have to worry about, whether I can not eat like what's going to be there, right? Yeah. Whether it's like at a party or it's like out at a restaurant, that sort of thing. And like, what if it's a day that I didn't eat my dinner properly, or I'm going to be out for a while and I'm going to get hungry? Like, it's important to me to be able to eat wherever I can when I'm out. Yeah.
Well, could you tell me a little bit about your journey with having celiac disease and getting diagnosed?
Okay. Yeah. We're getting raw and real here. We like, yeah.
You're more than welcome to, as long as you're comfy.
Yeah. Okay. So, for me, like, I honestly have had symptoms for like 9 or 10 years now. I probably started when I started university in about 2013. And it became this thing where I just was having like chronic diarrhea, like every single day, multiple times a day sometimes. And I didn't really question it. Oh. It just kind of became like my norm, right? And it's so funny because I would have like friends and, relatives that would be like, that's not normal, right? Like, you should probably get that checked out. And I'd be like, oh no, it's fine. Like, it's just my everyday thing, right? And so I just kind of lived with that for a while. And then, a lot of this is like reflection on the past now, because at the time I didn't recognize like the reason that these things were happening to me. But in about 2014, I actually developed asthma, which is really random because most people get asthma when they're a child and then they often grow out of it too, right? And I also started to get allergies around that same time, like seasonal allergies. And again, I was just like, oh, super weird. Didn't question it. Yeah. Just like kind of kept moving on, and again, more and more things started to pile on, but I still didn't recognize what it could be, right? So like I started to have low iron suddenly, and at this point there was no reason for me having low iron because I had dealt with things that might have like caused, more blood loss, that sort of thing. And I was still eating the same type of diet of like lentils and meat and that sort of thing. So I couldn't really explain why suddenly I had low iron. Right. And I mean, as some background, like I'm a pharmacist, so I did have kind of like a medical, like perspective on all this stuff, but I still, when I was in pharmacy, when it came to like the GI section and that sort of thing, we probably had like one slide on celiac. Like we spent 5 minutes on it, glossed right over it, and it didn't leave an impact on my mind at all. Right. And so, all these things are happening, and then, life happens, whatever. You know, my chronic pain got a little bit worse. I've had that since I was in high school. But then in 2021, at the very beginning, there was like a lot of stuff that happened at once. And the first thing I noticed was like joint pain. And it was like more frequent than usual, right? And so I was like, okay, that's really odd, right? And then in about May 2021, I actually started getting swelling in my neck. I know. So it would happen about once a month for about a week or so. It would just swell up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it was like super painful. And that's when I started to like go to the doctor and be like, what's wrong with me, right? Like there's something wrong. And I kept like trying to question thyroid because my mom is hypothyroid, and you know, I just knew that some of the symptoms were similar, like chronic fatigue, all this stuff, right? So that's what I was questioning, and I just kept asking for lab recs and that sort of thing. And I saw an osteopath, I saw a physio, I saw so many people try and figure out what was happening to my neck, right? And it was so unexplainable. And every time I'd go for an ultrasound, by the time I get the appointment, it was already coming down.
Right.
So frustrating. But yeah, so eventually my doctor just took it upon himself to you know, look at my inflammatory markers and that sort of thing, and just kind of do like the lab testing for celiac. Because I had mentioned in the past to him my chronic diarrhea, right? And yeah, he called me back and was like, hey, you're positive for celiac. And I was like, solid. And he's like, yeah, you can get a scope done if you want to confirm it. And I'm like, I want to confirm it. And so like, I went and got a scope done. And yeah, they were like, yeah, your duodenum is completely flat. There's no microvilli. You're going to have to change your diet and everything. And I was like, sick. And even then I was pushing it. I'm like, what if I don't follow a gluten-free diet?
Yeah.
What are the long-term complications of this, right? And yeah, the specialist was like, early onset osteoporosis. And I was like, oh my God, right? And then she was like, lymphatic cancer. And I was like, my lymph, like that's what's swelling up every month, right? Like literally. And I was just like, okay, all right, that's enough. I'm convinced. If I have to now worry about what I can and can't eat, and you know, you have to sometimes limit yourself, and sometimes there's just no options for you realistically, right? But you can start to see over time that you know, definitely it is making a difference in my health. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm happy to say that the neck swelling is gone. The joint pain went down, you know. My chronic fatigue has probably improved by like 25%, 30%. It's pretty big.
Yeah.
And yeah, you know, haven't gotten my iron labs done since, so I'll have to check on that. But you know, slowly but surely.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I don't know. You're still learning what gluten's even in.
Yeah.
You know.
I have to Google stuff all the time. I'm like, I'm like, oh, this is a grain.
Yeah.
Is it a gluten grain or is it?
Yeah.
Does it not? Like
Oh my
I
gosh.
have to double check.
Yeah,
Still after 10
years. I
years.
can't buy a single thing without having to like stare at the packaging for like 10 minutes at least, like every single thing. And it's in sauces, like it's in so much
Oh
sauce.
gosh, yeah.
It's ridiculous. Cereal, so much cereal. But yeah, I don't know. So yeah, it's changed a lot of things, but yeah, I don't know. It's wild because like I feel like a lot of people don't get it still. They don't really know what it is. And it's actually like a huge thing that like severely impacts a person's life if they're ingesting it. But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. I find it so interesting too though. But yeah, it's a lot. Yes,
Like
exactly.
you have to eat 3 times a day for the rest of your life and not have gluten.
Yeah, and also how it impacts my life too is I don't like cooking. And I have no choice but to like make food at home now for the most part, right?
Yeah.
Like I'll still try and like, you know, again, push it and like order food and this, right? But like it's hard because, you know, in terms of ordering food, even if you put in the notes or the special whatever, like request, you put gluten allergy or whatever, you have no idea if they followed it or not. And there's definitely been days where I eat the food and the next day I'm like, yeah, they definitely didn't follow it. Like they didn't listen to what I said, right?
Yeah.
And then like even eating out, like I thought it was as simple as, you know, first kind of like asking what's in the food, blah, 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 but nobody seems to know the answers to anything.
Yeah.
They like really don't know anything about celiac a lot of the time. And then, you know, just requesting, oh, gluten allergy, this sort of thing. And then I kind of realized like, if they don't actually like put the food on your table and say like with gluten allergy, that's like another thing to look out for.
Yeah.
Like, it's so hard to just like be sure, right? It's like, cause it's not one of those immediate things that you're gonna feel like sometimes, right?
Oh,
So,
yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. Like you really just can't trust a lot of places that you eat out to. Like you are taking that assumed risk, honestly.
Yeah.
Like it means so much to me when I can like find these places and like Avatara.
Yeah, anywhere with like a separate fryer, I'm like, I love you.
Like separate fryer though, I'm like that's the least you could do, okay? But like
Yeah, right?
yeah.
Like that
But,
seems very simple.
Exactly, and like I get it. You know, some people don't see the benefit in having that. You know,
Yeah.
I guess like in a cost, you know, like a profit type way, right?
Right.
But it's just wild that places don't accommodate
Yeah.
a very common like dietary restriction, right?
Yeah.
And like yes, a lot of people aren't diagnosed with it yet, and they have yet to find out. But
Yeah.
you know, but it's like what is it? It's 1 in 100 people have celiac.
Yeah.
Yeah, like so I feel like people should be, you know, creating more gluten-friendly and gluten-free environments. Yeah. But I guess I just wish people that were like more okay with eating it and incorporating it into their diets too, I guess, right? And that too, a lot of people think that gluten-free stuff tastes like worse than like the original stuff. It doesn't, okay? Gluten-free Oreos, still amazing, okay?
Yeah.
Gluten-free anything as long as it's cooked well, still amazing, you know?
Yeah.
Like that's all it takes. So I just want people to know that too, that there's really tasty gluten-free food out there. And just because it's gluten-free, it doesn't mean it sucks.
Yeah. Okay. I want to try one of these.
Okay, I want to try one of those too though.
Okay, yeah,
And
go
then
for
I'll
it.
do gingerbread again.
Yeah, I also want to try a gingerbread guy. Already points for not crumbling in our
I
hands.
know, yeah.
That's a sugar cookie. That's sweet,
Haven't had one of these in a long time.
right?